What's going on, guys? I am Fuller with Custom Offsets TV. Welcome to the channel. If you are new, if you found this video, it's likely because you're searching to buy new wheels and tires. So we wanted to explain to you something about offset and exactly what is offset, what is backspacing, how do they correlate, and I guess we're going to try to teach you about just about everything you need to know about offset. So we actually got this question in our inbox, which is part of our From the Inbox series. So believe it or not, probably only like 5 years ago, offset was not like a really common industry term. Obviously it existed because it's always been a part of wheels, but not everybody knew about offset or knew how to find their offset or what offset they needed for their vehicle until more recently. So we still do get a decent amount of questions on what is offset. So that's what we're here to explain today. So before we dive completely into what is offset, you kind of need to understand how to measure a wheel. So the easiest one is the overall diameter. So if you're looking at a wheel straight on, the measure from here to here across is their diameter. So usually this is going to be the 20 or 18 or 17, whatever it is, depending on your wheel size that you see first. And then the second is your width. So if you take a wheel and you turn it sideways, it actually looks something kind of like this. My drawing is pretty crude, but bear with me. So these are the face and the back of the wheel, and then this is going to be the width, which is the measurement between here and here, and that's going to be, like in the truck world, a really common size is a 20 by 12. So that's how you get your 20 by 12 wheel size. This is where offset comes into play, because the next number you see is usually going to be something like a negative 44, and that is your offset. So what is offset? If you look at this is the back pad of a wheel. This is a fuel wheel. This is a 12 wide negative 44 offset. So what the negative 44 is negative 44 is millimeters. It's basically how far offset the center pad is from where the center of the wheel is. So if we take a look at the whiteboard, the center of the wheel is straight down the middle. If you were to offset the pad negative 44 degrees, the pad is further back. So like this is the truck side, and this would be outside of your fender. By pushing this pad further back, you're pushing the wheel further out. So that's how you get that stance look if you're trying to push your wheels outside of your fender. Now, going back to this, offset and backspacing kind of play hand in hand, where if you take a straight edge across your wheel, like such, and you measure straight in, this one comes out to about 4.75, 4¾ inches. And that actually, you can put that into the calculators on our website if you want, and it'll show you that it's about negative 44 offset. So you won't be able to get like a very specific number out of, if you measure it and you say it's 4 5/8, and you type that in, and the decimal is all wonky, so it gives you like negative 48, it's probably going to be a negative 44 offset, because manufacturers basically stick to that. Like in your 20 by 9, it's common to have 20 by 9 0. There's positive sizes like plus 18, and then it goes all the way down to like negative sizes as negative 12 or negative 18 at the most is probably the pretty common ones in a 9 wide. A 10 wide is typically negative 24, and then your 12 wide is typically negative 44. Some companies out there are doing negative 51. 14 wide is typically negative 76. So you can see as you get wider and wider wheels, they also have, I guess, less offset. It's more negative offset. Let me draw a wheel real quick from the side. So this is a side view of a wheel. If it looks kind of wonky to you, you can see the examples that we have down here that kind of shows you what the cutout is. So basically there's your face here and your the backside of the rim of the wheel here, and then this is the center structure. So basically the center of your wheel is going to be in here, and if there's any spokes that come out, they'd be going this way or straight out to the barrel, however the wheel is designed. But that kind of gives you your side profile of what a wheel looks like translated up to the board. So understanding negative and positive offset. If you have a car, you're going to typically run into positive offset situations. Trucks with aftermarket wheels, you're typically running into negative offset situations if you're going for that stance look. Your stock wheels and tires are usually almost always positive. So if I divide this right down the center, this, like I said, would be a 0 offset. If the pad lines up perfectly here, it's a 0 offset. So if I draw this where, like if this was a concave lip wheel, then you've got spokes coming in this way. And now if it's positive offset, the pad or the surface where the wheel mounts to your vehicle is on this side of it. That's going to be your, like plus 12 offset, where it's 12 millimeters away from the center towards the outside of the wheel. On the opposite spectrum, if you have a lipped wheel and your spokes are further back here and they come down, say this way, and you have all this lip out front, now your spokes dive back and they are behind this center line, and they might add some additional padding to the back of the pad. Again, that's where your wheel mounts to your hub of your vehicle. So now you can see that it's so much further back, and this is where you would see probably, like if this was a 12 wide, this distance is 44 millimeters, so it's a negative 44 offset because that pad is pushed further in towards the vehicle, which in turn pushes the wheel further out. So with these two wheels down here, I grabbed two examples. It's the same wheel but in two different sizes. So you'll see this one, it's a 10 wide, and the opposite wheel here, if you measure it across, is a 12 wide. So you measure actually between the rim of the wheel to get the correct size. Helpful hint. But what I wanted to show you then was what happens to the lip of the wheel when you change offsets. So, like I said, this is a 12 wide, and you can take a look at the front of it here. And if we go in and measure this lip with an actual tape measure and not a $100 bill, right to the front of the spokes, you can see we get about a 5-inch lip on the 12 wide. Now, if you go over to the 10 wide, keep in mind this is a negative 24, and this is a negative 44. You'll see it drastically reduces the size of the lip to about 2.5 inches. So if you remember, this one was at 5, and this was 2.5, but there's only a 2-inch difference in the actual width. The rest of the difference comes from the difference in offset, this being negative 24 and this being negative 44. That's where the difference is, where you get that lip being smaller on the 10 wide versus the 12 wide. So it's the width and the offset that both impact that. On the back side, it's just as easily noticeable there on both of these wheels. So if you were to measure the pad, which I need my stick for, so if we come in here and then measure this to measure the back spacing, put my straight edge across, measure it in, and it's about 4 5/8 to 4 3/4-ish. You come over here and you go to measure this one. Well, this is the 12 wide, the last one was a 10 wide. And I stick my hand in front of the camera, and the measurement is basically the same. So you might be thinking, well, that means they have the same offset, but that's not true because they're different widths. So the negative 24 might measure out to be the same back spacing, but it won't be the same offset. And that's one of those things where you can punch it in the calculator on our website, because you have to factor in the width and the offset to calculate the proper back spacing. So offset is really important to understand when you're looking for fitment for your vehicle. I think offset and width are going to be your biggest factors, and then as well as tire size. That's going to be the other really important one that you want to pay attention to. So we've actually developed a gallery that's got over 40,000 vehicles in it that you can go out and then plug in your specific year, make, model of truck. And if you've got a certain size lift kit on there, you can add that in there. If you got stock suspension, you can just plug that in, and it'll show you what everybody else has been running, along with detailed pictures and all the fitment specs you need to know, whether there's any trimming done or any rubbing that occurs. That's all in there, and it gives you all of the specs on wheels and tires as well. So it'll give you exactly the 20 by 12 with the negative 44, and everything you need to know, 33, 12 and a half. It'll give you very specific sizes so that you can see exactly what you need to run. So if you've been shopping for wheels and you didn't understand offset, hopefully this is a really simplified version of it so you can kind of better understand what offset is and how it impacts your fitment. If you have any questions, feel free to drop a comment below. Otherwise, come out to the website, check it out. We've got tons of different calculators on there. And then the gallery, like I mentioned, you can purchase your wheels and tires right through us. They come shipped, mounted, and balanced right to your door. It's free shipping in the lower 48 states, customoffsets.com. Make sure you like us on Facebook, subscribe on YouTube, youtube.com/customoffsetstv. Do the motion track thing.